How about part two of this blues thing that I said I was going to start? Should turn off notifications. Shit. So we're going to talk about a little more about the dirty blues. You know, the way how it wound up becoming more of rock and roll, the kind of rock and roll I dig too. And the way that happened. Now, like I said, this is up for discussion. We had the Delta blues and all that. And there's one guy that a lot of the British invasion said they loved the hell out of, and that was a guy named Robert Johnson, and he was the king of the Delta blues. And he wound up dying at like 29 years old. Someone poisoned his whiskey with strychnine because he was doing things you're not supposed to be doing with someone else's old lady. And so he wound up dying mysteriously. Well, rumor had it he was like the shittiest guitar player in the Mississippi area, in the Delta area. And so he disappears, he comes back, and he winds up just handing everyone their asses. Nobody even came close to even coming near him because he was so damn good. And rumor had it that he signed his soul to the devil. And he wound up meeting the devil at these crossroads at midnight every night, not every night, but during the full moon, I believe. And the devil would tune his guitar and teach him how to play. And so he was the bomb until he died. And then somehow in the 60s, a lot of cats like the Rolling Stones, Zeppelin, which was the Yardbirds at one time, they wound up getting hold of these records and just thought it was amazing. And because it sounded like he was playing a different bunch of another notification. Sorry about that, guys. And I should turn the. She's all keeps. Okay. Thanks, Carolyn. Anyways, so he was playing a lot of bass lines and a lot of melodies because back then, I guess it was kind of a. Just shit like that. And he was doing, just shit like that. And so he just wound up influencing this whole generation of British people coming into the United States, doing a lot of blues stuff. And that blues stuff wound up just morphing into just something incredible that I really enjoy. And my favorite bands have come out of that whole era of these British guys trying to imitate what they've heard. They were also imitating like Muddy Waters, Lead Belly, just stuff like that. And it's just the stuff that the blues that comes out of there is just wonderful. And although it's rock and roll like Led Zeppelin has done, one of my favorite bands, it's still the blues. It's based on the blues. Like one person told me, if it walks like a duck, it sounds like a duck, it's a fucking duck. Well, it's the blues. You can call it whatever you want. It's still the blues. Black Sabbath, they're blues based. Zeppelin, they're blues based. All that stuff. So we're just going to talk a little bit and touch bases on a distorted guitar and the blues. I'm going to put on some reverb on that motherfucker. Let's see. Too much. See, reverb's like steak sauce, dude. If you have a good steak, you don't need to be putting A1 and shit on your fucking steak. You just need, your steak. But if you wind up with crappy equipment, reverb's not bad. Reverb's also used to kind of sustain things. Like I didn't know this a long time ago, but it helps sustain the vocals. And if your singer's shitty and they have pitch control issues, reverb kind of fixes that too. So does chorus. When you see my finger, I'm not pointing at you telling you this or that. I'm moving the notifications I forgot to turn off. So let's talk about some basic blues patterns. Like last time we were talking about, this is a shuffle. We're not going to get into that. However, what I want you to do is go back to my last episode and I talk about how to do that. Over more in the open position. Okay, so what I'm going to talk about is approaching the blues in a more melodic way. And, you know, when I'm going to see bands or I'm going to blues jams and stuff, I'm not a huge, like, blues performer, but I do jam with the bands if I can. They do a lot. And if you don't have any ideas, you don't really know much about theory, then you're going to be stuck doing that. And nobody wants to be the loner boner doing that shit. So I'm going to give you some ideas on what to do. Now, this is mainly for you theory heads, you theory buffs. If you know what a dominant 7 chord is based on, it's based on the mixed Lydian mode. Let me tell you that again. And if you know what the hell I'm talking about, here's our major scale. We're going to be going over that shit later, but for people who already know this shit. That's our major scale. Major scale is root 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, root. The mixed Lydian has a flat 7. Root 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7, root 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7. Now you want the chords to have a flat 7. How's that pull? It's a dominant chord. God darn it. There's your dominant sounding thing. Now, when you're playing like an A7, now A7 is also this, but you don't want to, like, you put your index finger over onto the 5th fret of the 6th string, with the ring finger over on the 5th fret of the 4th string, with the pinky over on the 6th fret of the 3rd string, of the ring finger over onto the 5th fret of the 2nd string. Okay. Usually what I like to do is I like to just hit certain notes. If there's a bass player and his bottom's pretty heavy on his tone, I usually avoid the bass note, the tonic, and usually just focus on the next set of strings that are in the chord, or the next set of notes in the chord. Now, if you know triads, where our notes are based on, so this is A7, and that's basically triads in D. Then I would throw in triads on top of this chord. And then it changes keys, so you're doing a C7 or a C9 if you want. And what you got is you got your middle finger on the 5th fret of the 5th string, traffic finger, index finger over onto the 4th fret of the 4th string, ring finger on the 5th fret of the 3rd string, pinky over onto the 5th fret of the 2nd string. Now that's a 9 chord. If you want a 7th chord, you move that pinky over onto the 5th fret of the 1st string. But then if you want to sound really cool and do that sharp 5, sharp 9, that's such a cool chord. Okay. And then when you want the E, you can move it up over here. Now, if you have to play open, then A7. If you're an intermediate player, if you don't know an A7, dude, then I don't know what to tell you. But you put your index finger over onto the 2nd fret of the 4th string, middle finger, over onto the 2nd fret of the 2nd string, and you want that 3rd string to ring and be in tune. Now we're going for the D7. Now what's cool about this is you can throw not chromaticisms, but diminished runs in it. So what you got is your middle finger over onto the 2nd fret of the 3rd string, index finger over on the 1st fret of the 2nd string, ring finger over on the 2nd fret of the 1st string, and you're playing open D string. And you tune your string. And so what's cool about that is what I like to do is you got this little diminished run if you want it, and you move it up. If you move it up a step and a half, you get this cool little sound. So like a... sounds pretty cool. Thelonious Monk, one of my favorite jazz musicians, did a lot of that, where he play like a A7 and go down a half step from the tone and do like a whole step diminished scale. So anyways, that's for people who got a hand on theory. I'm trying to like tackle everybody all at once. So, and then the E7, you can play like this. It's like playing E major chord, but you're taking out the ring finger. E major, E7, and I just play it like this. Same freaking thing. Where you got it's like playing the D7, but then you're just moving up a whole step. And you're using your index finger over on the 2nd fret. Should all be on tablature right here, hopefully. See? And so that's one way of playing the blues, along with playing it fretted. And so, instead of holding these chords, you got a few options. You can hit your triad. That is, since an A7 is part of a major triad, you just throw it in a triad right there. The D triad over the D. We're gonna go over triads soon, so if you don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, you'll find out. Then we got A. And then, if you want solo over it, our handy dandy A minor pentatonic scale, which we've gone over before, I think in the 1st or 2nd lesson. And this is where you get some really cool licks.